Good evening. Welcome to Tacks. I'm Zakka. Jacob, the Prime Minister today inaugurated the Mahakal Lok, or the corridor around the Mahakal temple in Ujjain, and dedicated it to the country. Now, this cannot be seen as yet another temple corridor inauguration. It has to be seen in continuum. Because last year, the Prime Minister opened the Kashi Vishwanath Dham. Before that, there was the renovation of the Kedarnath shrine. There has been this strand in Modi's politics, his public persona, of trying to revive the pride of ancient Indian civilization, and particularly Hindu Astha, as it were. There used to be a time when heads of government, heads of political parties in this country used to be politically correct, or at least used to be at some point embarrassed about showing their faith in public. Mr. Modi has gone beyond just public show of faith. This is about restoration of the glory of ancient Indian civilization. Is it politically correct? We don't know. Has the opposition attacked him for it? Yes, they have. And how does this fit, or how may this sit with the ideals of a secular state where there is separation of state and religion? But first, some glimpses from what turned out to be a momentous day in Ujjain.
शंकर के सानिध्य में साधारण कुछ भी नहीं, सब कुछ अलौकिक है, असाधारण है, अविस्मरणीय है।
All right, a push for cultural restoration, a push for civilizational rejuvenation, if you will. Is that the strand that connects what happened today in Ujjain with what happened 6 months ago at the Kashi Vishwanath Corridor inauguration, and what happened much earlier in Uttarakhand at the Kedarnath Dham? Let me bring in our special guests who are joining us on the debate tonight here on Tacks. Shehzad Poonawala here in our studios, BJP spokesperson; Kapil Madan, political analyst; Hindol Sengupta is a historian; Deshratan Nigam, political analyst; and Suvansi Raman also joining us this evening. Shehzad, let me start with you first. There used to be a time in this country where political leaders, especially heads of government, were very churlish, if not, let's say, the right word or the politically correct word was being politically correct about show of faith. Has that time gotten over? It's not just Prime Minister Modi, even Rahul Gandhi is doing temple runs these days. Is it okay now in Indian public life to show your faith and be not embarrassed about it or unabashed about it and not churlish about it?
You know, first of all, Jai Mahakal to everybody, and I think this is not just a great moment for all Shiv Bhakts, and this is not just about the restoration of an ancient temple, but more importantly, this is the most momentous and glorious moment in the rejuvenation and revitalization of Indian civilization itself. And much like in the footsteps of Ahilyabai Holkar and Ranaji Shinde, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and look at the 8-year tenure, even before when he was Chief Minister, this is not a one-off. This is not a symbolic message. This is something that he truly believes that the higher you want to achieve or grow, you need to have deeper roots, and therefore we are going back to our roots. And what are our roots? Somnath, the restoration of Somnath, it was opposed by the Congress party. Nehru had once said it was Hindu revivalism, had opposed Rajendra Prasad going there. Whether it's Somnath Mandir, whether it's Kedarnath, Badrinath, the Char Dhams, whether it is Kashi Vishwanath Dham, the corridor, whether it's today Ujjain Mahakal, or whether it is the restoration of temples even in Jammu Kashmir, which were vandalized by in the entire period where terrorism and Islamic forces had taken over the valley. So this is a larger project to revitalize something that is civilizationally ours. Now coming to your question, Zakka, why is it always that if you go for an iftar party, that was considered to be secular, even though you had no faith in iftar, you never kept a roza, but going to iftar is considered to be secular. Saying first right of the resources of the country belongs to one community, by the Prime Minister and then reiterated by leaders of that party is considered to be secular. It is secular to say that Shri Ram does not exist and to even challenge his existence on affidavit. But if the Prime Minister wears his culture on his sleeve, then it is considered to be communal or it's considered to be politically incorrect. Let me ask you, the presidents of United States, even today, swear oath not on the Constitution.
Yeah.
They swear by God.
Yeah.
So that is okay. And by the way, the Prime Minister's vision is not limited to any region or religion. Let me tell you, under the Prasad scheme, I was just seeing what all has been rejuvenated. The Cheraman Juma Masjid, Hazrat Bal, Ajmer, the St. Thomas Shrine, Velankani Church and St. Luke's Church has been reopened after 3 decades.
Okay.
So this is about Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. And as a Muslim, as a proud Indian Muslim, my heroes and my idols are Sri Ram, are Sri Krishna, are Shiva. So if there is something that is being done to rejuvenate and revitalize that civilizational aspect with which even I associate.
Okay.
Indonesian Muslims, by the way, continue to consider Ram as their icon of history and culture. They have not let go of it.
Let me ask Hindol Sengupta, if this is a civilizational project, you can't just see what happened in Mahakal today as some kind of an isolated incident. This has to be seen with what happened at Baba Vishwanath a few months ago, what happened at Kedarnath. The Prime Minister trying to urge the entire country to take pride in who we are as a people and where we came from and what our ancient history is. What does that do to a nation's self-confidence in itself? And what does it do to a nation's collective identity? Because this is, like I said, more than just the inauguration of a temple corridor.
There's a simple answer to that, Zakka. I spent many, many years looking at liberalization and India's economic rise, which is still a large part of my work. But if you look at history, no nation in the world has really risen only economically. That's a myth. If nations succeed only economically, then they do not really rise in the world. Every nation that has really risen ever in the world to a place of prominence, whether it's the United Kingdom or it's America, or you take any country or today China, they have risen on the back of economic success and that and is very important, and a very deep sense of cultural uniqueness. Without that, no nation can really rise. India cannot only hope to be the 5th largest economy today and maybe in a few years, the 3rd largest economy, and have no real cultural mooring. It must know where it comes from to know where it is going. This is something that's not being said by me. Swami Vivekananda said this, that you cannot know where you're going unless you know where you come from. This is fundamental to the rise of India in the committee of nations around the world. Unless we have this cultural confidence, only economics will not get us there. And this project must be understood holistically. Therefore, the rejuvenation of Mahakal today, which is not only a spiritual center, but a great center of science. As I was saying earlier to another show, where does the decimal system come from? It comes from a man called Bhaskara. Where did Bhaskara work? He worked in Ujjain. Where did his master Brahmagupta work? Worked in Ujjain. So unless we have this cultural confidence to really reinvigorate the place of the Ujjain meridian, which was there long before the Greenwich meridian came into being, only economic success will not do it for us. Therefore, if India has to rise, every Indian must understand cultural confidence and economics go hand in hand.
Let me ask Kapil Madan 2 points. The point that Shehzad made earlier about, if America is this beacon of democracy, it is the world's oldest democracy, and even to this day, American presidents, when they take the oath of office, they have their right hand raised and their left hand is on a Bible. It's not on the Constitution, and usually the First Lady holds the Bible. So if that is considered secular, then why can't Prime Minister Modi going to Mahakal or going to Kashi Baba Vishwanath's temple and inaugurating these corridors, taking part in the puja and the aarti, why is that not considered secular? And more closer home, if leaders, and we've seen this happen, and nothing wrong with it, if leaders can go for iftar parties, wear the skull cap without actually believing in Islam or in keeping the rozas, and that was considered secular, then why is this any less secular?
So Zaka, look at it. There is no dispute on this on this preposition that one should be really proud of your respective culture, your spiritual values, your historical values. There is absolutely no debate. There cannot be any different views on that. But having said that, let me just tell you one thing here. Now, insofar as this project is concerned. Now, it is another thing that it is being completed under the BJP government. But the fact of the matter is, in 2018, this project was sanctioned. The funds were allocated when the Kamal Nath government was in power in Madhya Pradesh. That is one thing. And now you have also raised another issue, very relevant issue, that why Mr. Modi going there is being questioned. I mean, there is absolutely no question of Mr. Modi going to Mahakal Corridor and inaugurating the project. But the problem is, at the same time, you have your ministers, sitting MP, giving an open call for a boycott of a particular community, and you are a mute spectator. Now, if you look at what is happening in the country, in the backdrop of what your ministers are actually doing on the job, it gives us a different story. It gives us a story that Mr. Modi is he is trying to polarize the environment.
No,
That's the only conclusion you can draw.
If I understand you right, you don't have a problem with him going and taking part in the Aarti or in the puja with all its symbolism and rituals. All of that is not a problem, but you feel that you can't have that on the one hand and then MPs of the party, call for a social boycott of Muslims. So quickly respond, Shehzad, and then I'll go.
Firstly, on a point of fact, the proposal for this particular project was floated in 2017, Shivrajji's government. DPR was prepared under Shivrajji's government. In fact, when their government came, they stalled the project, and the 300 odd crores, which was renewed for first phase, was sanctioned in the cabinet of Shivraj Singh Chauhan. So these are the facts. Let's put the facts on record. Secondly, if they want to take credit, they should take credit for latkawing, bhatkawing Ayodhya Ram Mandir for 70 years, and we know how a lawyer went to court and said that postpone it after elections. We also know how they said Shri Ram does not exist.
There was a dispute around that. In Ujjain, there's no dispute. In Ayodhya, there was a dispute.
What was the dispute in Somnath when Mr. Nehru said that?
Okay, no, but answer the question that he asked. Answer the question he asked.
Kedarnath 2013, after the floods, that also they did not finish that project.
Answer the question he asked.
Yeah. Now, coming to the larger question he asked. By the way, I just happened to spend time with Mr. Parvesh Verma, whom he's referring to. And I heard his statement and I asked him also. He said, I have not referred to the entire community. My entire focus was on those people. Like there are stop funding the hate campaigns. There are a lot of these liberal campaigns. Don't fund the hate, don't fund the hate, you're funding the hate. So if he has the same parameter that don't fund somebody's Islamist hate, what is wrong in it? He has not said, if he can show me where he has said the entire community, I will be happy to accept it. But Kapil Madan won't be able to.
When he said un logon ka, what did he say?
But he was
Sampradayik bahishkar karna chahiye.
He is referring.
Who is he referring?
Yeah, he is referring to those who indulge in anti-national and activities targeting Hindu community and targeting innocent people. Point
anyway,
number one.
So that's
but just 10 seconds more. If that is extremely disgraceful for Mr. Kapil Madan, may I ask the entire Hindu community being called Hindu terror, saffron terror by Sushil Kumar Shinde? What does he consider that? And why did they oppose
these are asides from the main debate. Let's stick to the main debate now. One second. I'll come back to you.
Pujan was opposed by the Congress.
I'll come back to that. Suman C. Raman, I think it comes down to a very simple truth, and that the politics of this country has changed. The optics around a head of government or a political leader being seen in a temple has changed to the point where even Rahul Gandhi is now doing temple runs. In fact, he had gone to Mahakal, I think a few years ago, when there was this whole thing about him being a Janeyudhari and him being a Shiv Vakt. I think it started from Mahakal. So has that sort of public, if you will, discomfort that leaders of a previous generation had with being seen with overtly religious symbolism and taking part in pujas, etc., is that era now over? Is this now the new normal for mainstream politicians, that you be unabashed about your faith in public life?
First of all, Zakka, I disagree very strongly, saying that previous era of leaders were extremely concerned or cautious about being seen at religious places. I cannot think of too many major temples across the country that Mrs. Indira Gandhi did not visit. In fact, she visited Mahakaleshwar. Sonia Gandhi visited Mahakaleshwar. Rahul Gandhi has visited Mahakaleshwar. And Rajiv Gandhi inaugurated one of the largest temple inaugurations in South India, which is the Goraknatheshwar in 1991 in Karnataka. So I think that we have to understand that what has changed is the media glitz and the publicity that goes around these events. Those were essentially events that happened, and the prime ministers attended the events and participated in the function, and that was the end of it. Here, the focus itself is on the prime minister as much as it is on the event. So I think that the previous leaders or previous generations of leaders did not necessarily think in terms of deriving political mileage from these temple visits or visits to almost every major prime minister in the past has visited the Golden Temple, they visited the Ajmer Dargah, and so on. So I think that the need to be seen as doing this, the need to sort of score a political point, saying that, look, we are doing this and we are the saviors of the Hindus and so on. I don't think previous prime ministers ever felt the need for that. And I can give you dozens of not only temples, religious institutions, mutts, which were visited by and supported by any of the scions of the Gandhi family over the decade.
Let me ask Deshratan Nigam, one of the other arguments that's also been put forth is no problems with, either Prime Minister or any BJP leader, minister going to functions of Hindu temples, inaugurating corridors, but no one from the BJP ever goes for an iftar, or no one from the BJP ever visits a masjid. That is the political argument being made by parties like the Congress and others. That is anathema to the idea of a secular state. Deshratan Nigam.
Zakka, in fact, the secular philosophy is Sanatan philosophy. And let me read the Kalyan Mantra, which the Prime Minister also referred to and many people always refer to. It is Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, Om Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kashida Dukha Bhagvet. Now this means, and let me read it in Hindi, सभी सुखी हों, सभी रोग मुक्त हों, सभी का जीवन मंगलमय बने और कोई भी दुख का भागी ना बने. हे भगवान हमें ऐसा कर दो. So this philosophy does not, divide humanity between Muslims or non-Muslims or Christians or non-Christians. It is a universal philosophy. And therefore, the most secular philosophy that you will find is Sanatan Dharam. Some people may interpret it as being a Hindu or a non-Hindu philosophy, but this is the universal philosophy which everybody believes in. And that is what the Prime Minister of Mahakal stands for. Somebody who wants you to wear a skull cap, why should somebody wear it? Pradhan Mantri has always gone, Modi ji has always gone to the mazars. He is, in fact, while in Indonesia, he went to a masjid also. And he took the Japanese Prime Minister to a masjid in Ahmedabad. Also, if you recall, Shinzo Abe when he was here in India. So all those factors remain. And the philosophy that Mahakal talks about is a symbol of both science and spirituality and mathematics also. So this is quite symbolic as well. And what Prime Minister is doing is not the Prime Minister himself doing, but he's manifesting the civilizational aspirations and cultural aspirations of the people of the country. It is not the other way around.
So what then do you say to what Sumant Raman said, that previous Prime Ministers have also gone to temples?
So wonderful. They have gone to visit the temple. Nobody should take away credit from them. They have gone. They had faith. They believed in certain things.
Yeah, one second. Let him finish.
And therefore,
they also helped in renovating temples.
Mrs. Gandhi used to wear Rudraksh. So we have seen Mrs. Gandhi wearing Rudraksh. She was going to various temples. So there is nothing wrong people going to the temple. I am on the larger question of Sanatan philosophy, which does.
Shehzad and then Kapil Madan after that. Yeah, Kapil Madan has a question, but Shehzad.
With due respect, Sumansi Raman has changed the goalpost completely. It's not about visiting a temple at all. It is about what you've done to restore those symbols or ancient symbols of your cultural heritage. And you did not touch them with a barge pole because you felt that your vote bank would be upset. The prime example, so let me complete. You can have your say in your turn. The prime example is Nehru's attitude towards Somnath, Congress's attitude towards Kedarnath after the Uttarakhand tragedy took place. It took a Narendra Modi to restore Kedarnath. Today we are also doing the other projects around Badrinath and the Char Dham, which will be completed by December 2023, whether it's the inauguration of the statue of Adi Shankaracharya. Okay, I'll ask you one question. Between 2004 to 14, how many temples in Jammu Kashmir which were went, and what was Jammu Kashmir's original identity? Rishi Kashyap's Kashmir, Ma Sharda Peeth. These were the original identities. What did you do to restore even one temple in Kashmir after so many years of power? Nothing.
Okay.
50,000 vandalized temples are being restored now, whether it's Ayodhya to Ajmer, Somnath to Badrinath, Kedarnath, or Kashi Vishwanath. All of it is being done by Narendra Modi.
One point on the Uttarakhand story. Uttarakhand floods happened in 12-13. By 14, the Congress was out of power. So I'm not sure in 1 year you could have restored, given the extent.
But they were in state government.
Anyway,
they were in state government.
Let me ask. Okay, so Sumant Raman respond. I mean, how many temples did UPA restore between 2004 and 14?
No, I think Zakka, the question is not how many temples. The point is, even if they did restore temples, they would not have made such a huge song and dance about it, because it was generally the duty of the governments to actually restore whatever places of worship came under their domain. Very often, Hindu temples come under the governments in various states in the country, and therefore their renovations are taken up. It doesn't mean that everything becomes a huge nationwide event. So therefore, to the very fact that we are not able to go in and say that this number of temples were restored or that number of temples were restored, does not mean that that action was not taken. It was just part of routine governance.
One second.
It was just part of governance.
Kapil Madan had a question.
So I have two questions, one for Mr. Poonawalla and one for Mr. Nigam. So Mr. Poonawalla made a clarification. He was holding a brief for Mr. Parvesh Sharma, and he said that it was not said for the entire community. It was said only, against the individual who were, spreading hate campaigns in India. So I just have a question here. Why don't Mr. Verma come on record, make a public statement by way of his social account and clarify that this was not Muslim community? He has not done that.
And the question for Mr. Nigam, after which I'll ask both of them to respond to
Mr. Nigam. Now another question for Mr. Nigam. So Mr. Nigam made a reference to the holy chant mantra, which talks about well-being for the entire world, well-being of the entire individual. So this is our history and this is our culture, and we are all proud of our dharma, Sanatan dharma, and the what we've learned. Now at the same time, if you really want to follow Sanatan Dharma and the way that was shown by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, then will you have competition between Kabristan and Shamshan? I mean, your act speaks otherwise. While you want to chant mantra at the inauguration of Mahakal Corridor, but your action speaks.
So Shehzad first to respond to the Parvesh Sharma point, and then I'll go to Deshrazan Nigam.
I'm sure my friend Parvesh would be very shocked to hear that you have taken his statement and targeted the entire community. In fact, I feel offended by your statement that when he says Dangai and Atanki, you only thought of my community, and I think you should be the one clarifying, not Parvesh Sharma. Parvesh Sharma said it for Dangais and anti-nationals. You made it that the entire community belongs to them. That is, in fact, you should be clarifying, and the Congress party should be clarifying why their thought process is like this. Now, Mr. Kapil, this is Zakka's debate. We can speak one at a time. If you don't like what I say, and I'm sure you don't, you can speak in your turn. Let me speak and then you can speak. Secondly, Mr. Raman says that, they did not make a song and dance out of it. Sir, this is the entire point. For the sake of one vote bank, you made a song and dance about a Hajj house being opened. You made a song and dance about wearing a topi and going for iftar. But koi tripund laga de to communal, or topi laga kar ghumta rahe to secular. This kind of secularism is the reason why so many of India's civilization, and what you made a song and dance about? 400 projects being opened after one family's name. That you made a song and dance about. When the Prime Minister's Today, look at the difference of attitude. Just 10 seconds. When the Prime Minister inaugurates a Prime Minister's Museum, it is for all Prime Ministers. When they did it, it was for Nehru Museum or Indira Museum. That's where their thought process ended.
Deshrazan Nigam, the point about what Kapil Madan was asking, that when Muslims get attacked, people get lynched, even what we saw in Gujarat a few weeks ago, people getting flogged, you can't have that being carried out by some elements of the state or representing the state, and then have this civilizational rejuvenation at a higher level far above all of this. Both of it can't be compatible. It can't go hand in hand. It's a dichotomy.
Zakka, the irony of the situation is when a Hindu is lynched, it doesn't become a news. However, when a Muslim is lynched, it becomes a news. Whereas both should become a news and both should be condemned. And that is what I am saying, that what the previous regimes did, they brought in Waqf Act of 1995, a land grabbing act, which is under challenge now. They brought 1990 Places of Worship Act, which prevented all the places of worship without any survey. Nothing can be restored. That is also under challenge in Supreme Court. This is what the true face of, secularism under the UPA was, or the Congress.
Okay.
So therefore, what we need to do today is to restore that balance. That balance which was highly in favor of certain sections, that is to be restored, and that restoration is taking place.
Hindol, talking about restoration, I get the larger picture of this national rejuvenation, this cultural rejuvenation, bringing back our civilizational heritage. Nobody has any problems or any qualms with that. The problem, I think, arises in this dichotomy of this happening at a supranational level, and at the local level you're having all these instances of flogging and lynching. So how do you marry one with the other? And secondly, the question being raised by the opposition is, and people like Sumant Raman, is, why are you making a spectacle out of it? Previous prime ministers also used to do the same things, but they never made a spectacle out of it.
No, the fact is...
Hindol.
At that time, and there was no Twitter, and there was no, the media, the nature of the media was very different. I dare say if media was exactly the same way at that time, the same thing would have happened then. But I want to quickly also answer an earlier point that came up in your debate, Zakka, about the Prime Minister Narendra Modi going to mosques. From what I understand, and if what I know, and please, I'm happy to be corrected, not only has Narendra Modi visited a mosque in India, the Safi Mosque, the Bohra Muslim community Safi Mosque, but he has also visited mosques, the Sheikh Zayed Mosque, for instance, in the Middle East, and also a mosque in Indonesia. In fact, one of the replicas he once gave in the Middle East was a replica of the Cherajuman Mosque in Kerala, which I'm sure many people know. But that aside, I think we bring this down to such bitter conversations that we can never get to the bigger picture. As far as violence in other places in the country is concerned, there's violence on many communities in our country. The poor people, the underprivileged in our country always suffer, they always have. And there's violence in many quarters about many of them. You can debate. One person would say there's violence in Gujarat. The other person would point out there's violence on a different community in Bengal, and so on and so forth. This will continue. Okay. But I think when such a architectural, spiritual site like Ujjain, scientific site like Ujjain gets rejuvenated, we must rise our debate, or raise our debate, rise above our petty, bickering, and raise our debate to a national level, right? And I think, and I have absolutely no problems in Delhi, where I live. There have been plenty of ancient monuments, including Mughal monuments, mosques, and tombs that have been rejuvenated by the Aga Khan Foundation, ASI, and so on and so forth. And I have absolutely no problem. The more the merrier, the country should look better, right?
Okay.
Something like the Ujjain and all the other temples that are being rejuvenated are fundamentally an asset for every Indian. We shouldn't make this a debate between communities. Okay. They're an asset for every Indian. There are collective civilizational heritage. We should all cherish them, we should all enjoy them, and we should be proud, in my humble opinion, when they get rejuvenated.
Shehzad.
Zakka, I keep making this point. Indonesia, which is largely Muslim, have not left their cultural roots, and they still have great allegiance and faith in Lord Rama, and to the extent that their national symbols have Ram and Ramji all over. But in India, you had bunch of so-called secularists who said that the best way to solve Ayodhya ji is that build a university there. This is the equivalent of the Vatican or the Makkah Medina for the Hindus. Would they ever say that about Vatican, or would they ever say that about Makkah Medina? They even went to the extent of saying that Sri Ram doesn't exist. They derisively said that that kaun se kamre mein paida hue hai Shri Ram. So this kind of distorted secularism is the reason why this country today, when this is being done by the Prime Minister, some of these so-called secularists see it in this way. But the fact of the matter is that they kept deriding the cultural civilizational heritage of even a Muslim like me is in Sri Ram, is in Sri Krishna, and that was denied to this country for 7 decades. Now it's being restored.
I'm afraid I'm out of time on that note. Like I said, at the supranational level, there is a very pertinent message that's being sent out, not just by what happened today in Ujjain, but also what happened at the Baba Vishwanath Corridor a few months ago at Kedarnath, that there needs to be, at a collective level, at a national level, we need to know who we are as a people and what our cultural identities are for us to move forward. So that is perfectly understandable. It's perfectly something that is, some would even say, the need of the hour. But if you were to break it down on the ground, how does that fit in with violence that happens on Muslims, or how does that fit in with other communities feeling left out? Well, we'll see. We'll see how politically and in public life this story plays out. But for the moment, I want to thank all our guests for joining us. I'm going to take a quick break here on the program. When we come back, and as we take that break, remember, tomorrow, 6 p.m. onwards, is going to be the biggest and most marquee awards night. It's the Indian of the Year. We're leaving you with the entertainment category. You can watch the grand finale tomorrow, Wednesday, the 12th of October, 6 p.m. onwards, right here on CNN News 18. These are the entertainment nominees.